This podcast contains excerpts from New Soul Radio shows. For the full listening experience with music, visit newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com. This is Soul Say.
The following thoughts and opinions do not represent New Soul Radio, Soul Say and Company, or any of our affiliates, advertisers, or sponsors. You're listening to Gems and Gems with Kim Brio on newsoulradio.com.
WSOLDB Chicago, you are listening to Gems and Jams on New Soul Radio with your host, Kim Brio. Thank you so much for tuning back in, y'all. And this week, we have Lisa Jenkins here. I will be talking to her and digging in regards to the Slipout app, which you guys have probably heard the ad aired already, and we're going to talk about the Slipout deck. This is, of course, you guys know Gems and Jams. We bring the life gems and the feel good gems. So we're going to be jamming, but we're going to be getting real and getting down to some nitty gritty as well. So without further ado, welcome, Lisa. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I actually, guys, transparently, Lisa, got a radio ad from me, and I'm looking at the ad and I'm looking at her and I'm looking up her stuff online, and I was like, so when we done doing this ad, can I go ahead and interview you? She was like, yes. So that's that's where we are. And it's interesting because as I was waiting for the app to be accepted, Lisa really kind of understood the pain of waiting for them to accept it and go through 900 changes. And they'd be like, but move this one period over there. And you'd be like, are you serious? But
Absolutely. Yeah, they rejected my app maybe 3 or 4 times. Like, it has to be more interactive. I'm like, okay, Apple is Apple, so I'm going to give you that. But what do you say?
What do you want?
Right. So and thankfully I got one good tech that got on the phone with me, because I was just like at my wit's end, like, this gotta go. Like, it was already.
What you want Google. Me to do?
Right. Like, it was already on Google. It got to be on Apple. So he walked me through it and I was able to make it great. So I just looked at it like, okay, it was great at first, but now it's just a lot greater.
Now it's greater.
Right. So I'm like, I took it as a blessing, but it was definitely a trial.
Listen, it's a whole process.
Man,
people really think that a lot of these things that are, that are out here that we do, like dropping apps and stuff, that is real simple. Baby.
Mm-hmm. Not at all. It look easy, but once you
get it, not.
You be like, and once you realize how deep it is, you've come so far, and so you can't go back.
Ain't no going back now.
Right. You just gotta see it through.
Yeah, my heart's set on it.
Yeah, you be like, so what did I really do to myself? Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
But on the other side of it, I know it feels very rewarding. So for those that are listening, Lisa founded the Slipout app, which assists in helping survivors and victims of domestic violence slip out, get their way out. So talk to me a little bit about the app. Tell me a little bit about what the app is. And next segment, we're going to dig in on, exactly what's in the app. But tell me a little bit about the app. But more so, tell me why this was a project for you.
Okay, so the app came about just because I wanted to do more. So I've been out 8 years, June 28th. And so in that time, I became an author. Thank you so much. I became an author, went to grad school, did some other great things. But through the process of my healing, I just want to help more, because I ended up being abused for so long because I was broken going in from my childhood. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I didn't realize that till years and years later when I started unpacking what was going on. So I just want to help others avoid those similar situations.
Yeah.
And everything I've been doing is like just an addition to. So to date, I've written 6 books. I'm working on number 7. And then, so I did the app because I just wanted to do more, but I made it free so everyone can, I'm like, my blessings will come. Like, the money isn't in the app. My blessings bigger than the money. And so I wanted it to be available to any and everybody. I didn't want it to be a hindrance of needing a credit card or worrying about somebody going to see it or that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to help. So initially it started just for victims and survivors of domestic abuse, to help them get out, help them heal. Then it evolved, as we know God does, and he took control.
Exactly.
And it became something for everybody. So that's how the push notifications came about, and just anybody who's dealing with, because we all have some toxic something, whether it's job, work, whatever.
Yes.
And so I just want to be a service to everybody, basically.
Yeah. And I love how you have no idea, girl. None of my guests are connected technically, but all of you guys' topics connect. Okay. And one of my other guests, Dr. Garrett, we've been talking about toxic people and understanding our adverse childhood experiences so that you understand what you're working with when Absolutely. You enter these situations. When I first saw about the app and I saw Slipout and I understood the concept, I really thought about the movie Enough. Okay. Mm-hmm. With Jennifer Lopez. And I was like, this is the tool where someone is not in a situation where they're just out there by themselves, feeling lost, stuck in a circle. I can't get out. I don't know what to do. I can't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about the experiences of the people who have been able to benefit from using the app. Have you had those kind of conversations with people yet?
I have. The app has a feature where people can contact me directly anonymously through a WhatsApp. And so some people have contacted me like to actually help them get out and just support them throughout the process and, give them encouragement, that kind of thing. Then also it's another young lady that lives in Chicago named Janine Hall, and she has a Purple Path nonprofit she's working on. We actually help victims like physically escape. Like if somebody contacts us, we literally go get them and relocate them across the country, or wherever they need to go.
That's huge.
Just because like when I was being abused, I didn't know what was happening to me. I knew I didn't like it, but I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah.
And so I got out. Thankfully, I was able to get out by myself, but I know that's not everyone's reality.
Yeah.
So that's why, shelters are full. Some of them have stipulations. It's not always an option. I just want to be another source.
Another opportunity, another source, another help. Yeah. Exactly. Now, let me ask you this. Let's dig in here, because when a lot of people think about domestic violence, they only think about you getting punched in your eye. Mm-hmm. And if you're getting punched in your eye, then you obviously know you're being abused. Mm-hmm. But talk to me a little bit about the situations where people don't necessarily realize or understand the abuse that they're kind of being put through. Can you dig in a little bit there for me and talk to me about what it looks like?
There were a few instances of physical, but for me, mainly it was emotional and mental. So that was my majority of my abuse. And again, I came from a dysfunctional home with my mother. Mm-hmm. So it was just a continuance. I left her house and thinking I'm going to my own apartment, but it's actually me, him, and our daughter. And mm-hmm. so it was no, down.
It was moving from one controlling area to another.
Exactly. So, and as a child, I learned to numb myself. And mm-hmm. things didn't matter. I was only a kid, so I was used to being by myself and, introverted. So it was just a unfortunate continuance of my life. So that's why I was like kind of able to, I guess, ignore it and just get through it so long. And then once I became a parent, that was my focus, because I was breaking the generational curse with my mother, with my daughter. So that was my focus. And so that just took over everything. And then I had endometriosis doing it at the time. So it was just a lot going on. And I was the last person on that list to focus on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just did what I had to do, basically. I couldn't go back home. So it was that I didn't want to be a baby mama. Yeah. We agreed to have her. You know what I mean? So it was just a lot of variables that played into it. But definitely emotional and mental abuse is by far, this might sound crazy, it's the worst, because the physical shit healed.
Exactly.
And that emotional and mental, that shit is still haunting me now. You know what I mean? And and prayerfully it won't forever, but it's a constant fight and process to continue to be what I am today. I'm like 4 versions of Lisa past who I was, but it's still a process.
But it's still a process back to where you should be.
Exactly.
There's a few things that you said that really, really resonated. The first thing was the childhood thing, because even thinking about the episode that I did where we talked about the adverse childhood experiences, mm-hmm. you normalized those things. So you didn't even necessarily realize that they were wrong. You knew that you didn't like them. You didn't know, you didn't like how it felt. Mm-hmm. But as far as you were concerned, you were a child. How do you know that this is not what happens everywhere?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
The other part of it, as I'm listening to you talk about it, is I'm curious, what would you say to the people who wonder if they're in an emotionally abusive relationship and they can't necessarily recognize it, because a lot of times we don't know when we're in the midst of it, and we don't know that that's what's being done to us. And a lot of times the characteristics, like you said, they last for years. You have to train yourself out of some of the mindsets and some of the thoughts. How do people begin to see maybe signs that they may be in something that may be emotionally abusive?
Well, for me, it was the always wanting to know exactly where I was. It was the trying to dictate like how I looked, what I did. He wanted to like really, really control me, but I always worked, I always had my own money. So he tried to do that, but
he couldn't.
But he couldn't.
That's what frustrated him more.
Right. So he abused me in areas that he was able to, but not in all areas. So I would say, and I didn't love myself, but that's another topic. But I just say that when you start, because you get a gut feeling. Learn to trust your gut, ladies and men. Trust the gut. You get a feeling like, if something just don't feel right, in your spirit, it's not right. Yeah. It might be subtle things that just like I said, the whole checking in to you, asking, trying to control your money, trying to control where you go. If you go somewhere, then it's an argument coming home. So you just stop doing it, because who wants to argue all the time?
Who wants to argue? I'm just not going to go there.
Or you just start doing stuff just to keep the peace in your house, which was another issue. I did things I didn't want to do or wouldn't necessarily have done in any other situation, but I didn't want to keep hearing doors slammed every night or a grown man stomping around the house, like just things like that. So it's kind of hard to like really answer that question, but you kind of, when it just start consistently not making you feel good. Yeah. If you constantly like have to censor what you tell this person, but then they have different, the rules apply to you, but not to them.
You do this, but I don't have to answer to you. I don't have to tell you where I'm going. I don't have to do any of that, but you're required to do that on my end.
No, bro. No.
No.
That it don't work like that. I can see that now, but it don't.
Exactly. It doesn't work. I love where this conversation is going. I'm going to hop out. We're going to play a little music and play a few commercials, pay some bills. But when we come back, I'm going to dig in. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the abuse. And I want to talk to you about mental and emotional abuse towards men from women. Because when we think about abuse, often we only think about physical abuse from men to women. And it's much more than that.
It's so much more. Like men and women are being abused for sure. Yes. We definitely need to spotlight men being abused more often.
Yep. So we're going to dig into that. And then we're going to talk about the app more specifically, so that when someone downloads this app, they know where to begin their healing, to begin whatever needs to process for them to grow. So guys, we will be right back. I'm going to play some music and pay some bills, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hop into this situation. And if you haven't been listening, make sure that you stay tuned in, because next we're going to talk about abuse towards men. That's taboo. They don't like to talk about that. So we're going to talk about it. You are listening to Gems and Gems on newsoulradio.com. Supporters of this show can join us on Patreon, where for only $5 a month, you can access all past shows and exclusive content. Join now at patreon.com/SoulSayCo. That's patreon.com/SOLSEICO. Want to answer one of our questions, or have a song or artist request, or do you just want to leave us some feedback? Call the New Soul Radio voicemail at 312-945-6376. That's 312-945-6376. Remember, we may play your message on air. Welcome back. Thank you for listening to Gems and Jams with Kim Brio on newsoulradio.com, where we drop these life gems and listen to these feel-good jams. I'm so excited to have Lisa Jenkins on today. We are discussing domestic violence, and it all sprung from her having her advertising her app with New Soul Radio. So you've probably heard the advertisement for the Slipout app. And now we're digging in today with Lisa, and we're talking a little bit about why she started the app, and we're digging into domestic violence. So before we left, we talked a little bit about domestic violence, why she started the app. We talked about what different forms of violence look like, because it's not all physical. And we really ended on making sure that we were talking about the emotional and mental abuse. So what I wanted to hop back in, and I teased you guys with before we went to the music, I wanted to talk about the abuse from women to men. So many times in society, we don't acknowledge that, or we only think of abuse as men fighting women and them physically not being able to fight back. We don't even acknowledge the other types of abuse. And then the part B of that, once we acknowledge them, we have to acknowledge that the power to do that type of abuse is equal both ways. Women are not, men and women are mentally equally strong enough. So even though she may not be able to beat his butt and throw him out the window, that does not mean that she's not abusing him. So Lisa, talk to me a little bit about your experience as far as seeing abuse from the other way around, and how some men can begin to possibly identify if they're in an unhealthy relationship.
I believe that some of the same cues happen. The whole trying to, keep tabs on where you're going, how you look, what you do with your money, how you might look at people and your other, people while you're together. And I think that men are afraid to admit they're being abused because one, they feel it makes them look weak, because society has told them that, they can't show weakness or feelings. Right. Mm-hmm. And how you gonna let some woman beat you or whatever, but I've seen it. We've helped some men escape also, because they, they're taught don't hit women, that kind of thing. So some women that are abusive play into that. Oh, I can do that
because I know you're not gonna hit me back.
Right, exactly. And that's just BS. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna just keep hitting on me and stabbing me and doing all this other stuff. And I just want men to know that I'm a safe space, and that they can, they can just be honest and admit that they, are being abused, and they need to get out, because no one deserves to be mistreated. Nobody.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's okay to be alone. No one wants to be alone, but it's okay to be alone versus being abused.
I'd rather be alone and treat myself
that
well.
Kind of thing. Right. So I just want men to, just own their emotions and their feelings, and just say something. There is help for men and women.
Yes. Now listen, girl, why you say it like that, sister to sister? Because I like to keep it real. And me and you have already formed a connection.
Yes.
I like to keep it real. So sister to sister, do you think that a lot of women are abusive in relationships and don't realize that they are?
Yes.
I'm glad that you said that, because as you described it, I'm thinking of people in my head, and even some things that at 35, of course, that I've done before.
Mm-hmm. Right. You don't think about it like that, but then once you, like, on the surface, no one wants to think they're abusive, or they're toxic or mistreating somebody. But then once you start digging into it, you're like, well, damn, that might not have been the best way to handle that, or that might have been the easiest or nicest thing to say, or I could have, didn't have to do them like that. But hurt feelings hurt feelings. You know what I mean? So I think that plays a huge part in it, because when we're hurt and emotional, we can't think straight.
Exactly.
So that's a big part of it, and then no one wants to heal, because people keep, generational curses continue for generations, because no one wants to talk about it.
Exactly. Ooh. And in our community, in the Black community, we are the best.
No one wants to talk about it, but then they complain about the shit continuing. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So a lot of stuff like went on, with me or whatever, because people don't want to talk about it. When I started talking about it, they want to throw me out the family. Peace.
Bye.
I haven't talked to half of my family in almost 20 years. Like, I'm good, because if y'all don't love me past this because she's your sibling, I don't know what to tell you. I choose me.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but I got to do what I got to do, because I refused. At one point, I just decided to stop being miserable.
Yeah.
And to take control over Lisa.
Your life. You got one life, and the only person who can really control it is you.
Exactly. And I got a whole lot left to live. So, and I spent the first half miserable. I wasn't doing it for the second half.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, as I'm talking to you and I'm listening to you and we're unpacking this, girl, how do we begin to wrap our mind around, right? And I know you're not a psychiatrist or a counselor or anything like that. This is just two sisters talking common sense talk to each other, right? If you sit in and you listen and you start going, man, my man, I do blow him up. I call him 67 times if he don't answer the phone. I have to know where he is. I dress him because I want him to look a certain way. I mean, let's just about and hear me clearly. I'm using all these examples because if I were saying this in the reverse, if I were saying that a man called a woman 67 times, that a man would be like, where you at? That a man would dress her, we would be so offended. But we normalize these behaviors from women to men.
Yeah, and I don't understand it. I
don't
really
get
don't
it.
understand it. It's wrong either way.
Yeah,
it's too much. Like, people are busy. People have even the corner boys are busy. Like, everybody not accessible all the time. Every single minute, because then you don't want that person because they got too much free time.
Exactly. I was about to say, then look, because you be like, you ain't doing nothing. You just sitting waiting on me to call.
Right. And I'm like, that get old real quick. You know what I mean? So I really don't understand how society got this way. I really don't, because it's really screwed us up.
Yeah, this is one of the most important things. I definitely wanted to do the show to, of course, bring attention to the app and bring it to the attention of some people who may need the help. But more than anything, I did not know what was really going to come out of this interview. This is something big, a big thought that I want to continue to have, is understanding and recognizing abuse in relationships from both directions. And not being we're so hard on men. We really are. We're so hard on men. And before we even get to the gender role, understanding that abuse is more than black in your eye, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And then the other part of it, when we understand that it's not just physical, understanding that it can easily be perpetrated from any direction.
Absolutely.
Any direction. Now, we're going to go to a break in a minute, but let me talk to you a little bit about this. So say that I am a woman or a man, right? And I'm listening to this interview. I've heard the commercial already. And I'm kind of thinking like, man, he don't beat my butt, but I am in an abusive situation and I need to get out. And I have downloaded the app, right? What are the first things that I can expect when I download this app?
That there's a self-care check-in, because I want you to, just evaluate where you are, at this point, and you've made the step that, okay, I need help. And then there's a list of PTSD and triggers, like it's a page for that, letting you know like what those are, because PTSD is really real. It shows you the cycles of abuse. There's a checklist to go, like, literally help you get out. Now, the checklist has been added to because I initially created the checklist in my first book because it was the steps I used to get out. But then over the 8 years, things have been added because it shows you how to get out. And another thing to piggyback on what you asked earlier, I want to be like shelters and other support groups to help you get out. But then once you're out, they kind of leave you
there. You out now.
Right. But the healing doesn't start when you're out. I thought the healing started as soon as I moved out. It did. It started a little while later. I'm still healing. So I want to be the help for after you get out.
Getting out and long-term assistance.
Exactly. Yes.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit, because here's the thing. We're doing all this talk about the app, and I have not even mentioned the deck.
Okay.
So can you tell them a little bit about the deck, the concept of the deck, and how you're supposed to use it?
Yes. So the domestic violence advocacy deck, again, is that just wanting to do more things. The initial idea was, okay, because we know domestic violence is a touchy subject. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
No one wants to get involved because it's so dangerous, all of that. So the initial thought was for it to be marketed to beauticians, barbers, nail techs, wax people, nurses, paramedics, that kind of thing, where it's something where you can just easily slip a card to somebody you think is being abused. So they come in these little pouches. So it's 24 cards. It's about to be 27 because I'm adding some new stuff to it.
Okay.
And each card has a different domestic violence term for it and definition on it. And then with the app information on the back. So even if you give them one card, they can still go back to the app.
They'll be able to go back to the app and access the rest of the information.
Exactly. So my thing is, like, say you're in the store. Like, one day I was in the gas station and this young lady was on the phone talking about abuse. Now, she wasn't getting abused. She was talking about who was getting abused. And I was like, girl, download this app. Tell her to download the app. And that's all I said. And it's walked off. And so, but if you're, servicing a client, customer, so it could be anybody on a radio show, anything. And they might be talking about they're being coerced. It's a card for coercion. You hand them the card and you don't even have to say a word.
I love what I love.
Or if you want to, sorry, I mean to cut you off, or if you want to just give them the whole deck. So either way, it can be a one-off or the whole deck.
So people, just so you understand, this is a deck and they're like the size of playing cards. So it's inconspicuous. This is not anything that you'll be like, hey, look at this big attention grabbing thing that I'm helping this person. You can slide it to them real inconspicuous. But I also love that idea and that fact that you're pushing out there about making sure that people who are barbers, beauticians, a lot of the professions you named that are unofficial counselors, they don't mean to be.
Right.
But they're unofficial counselors, whether they want to be or not.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what I want to do,
we're just real comfortable talking to them.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do, we're going to hop into some music really quick. Okay. And then when we come back, I want to dig in and I want to talk to those unofficial counselor positions, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of them don't, first of all, they didn't sign up for it necessarily. They just signed up to braid hair or cut hair or do nails or whatever. And that was not what they signed up for, but they're faced with it. So when we come back, I want to holler at them for a little bit, talk to them about the deck and where to find the deck, but then also talk to them from your perspective as a previous victim and as a survivor. What kind of things can they say to really make a difference when that person leaves? Okay. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to slide into some music again, lighten it up, pay some bills, y'all. We're going to pay some bills.
Gotta pay the bills.
And we will be right back. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are listening to Gems and Jams on New Soul Radio.
Take New Soul Radio with you wherever you go. Download the New Soul Radio app in the Google Play or Apple App Store by searching New Soul Radio. That's NUSOL Radio. If you have any tips to host your own radio show, hit us up at teamsose.com and drop your info. That's teamsose.com. SOLSCI. Sose.
Suffering in silence doesn't have to be your reality. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime. But you can get out. The Slipout app was designed to give victims and survivors of domestic violence useful yet practical tips, advice, and information on how to leave, how to heal, and how to prevent future abuse. Download the Slipout app for free on Google Play or the Apple App Store. There is a way out.
Imagine that this radio spot is about your business. It's easier than you think. Text 630-465-5742 to get started. That's 630-465-5742.
Welcome back. You are listening to Gems and Jams with Kim Brio on New Soul Radio, where we drop these life gems and these feel-good jams. I have the honor of being here and talking to Lisa Jenkins today. She is the founder of the Slipout app, which you have likely already heard the commercial for airing on the station. And I am so happy to be talking to you, Lisa. Now, for those that don't know, quickly, the Slipout app is an app created for domestic violence victims and survivors to help them figure out not only how to get out of the situations, but how to heal in the long term from that. So we've been digging into the app. We've been talking about domestic violence, different forms of domestic violence. We've been talking about domestic violence from men to women and women to men, y'all, because y'all try to act like that don't happen. We've been covering all of that. And right before we left, we started talking about the deck. Okay. Now, this is a deck of cards that she actually has, and each card has a helpful information on one side and the other side information on how to download the app. And she created this deck in the sense of being able to be a resource to assist people in difficult situations, right? So before we left, Lisa, you were telling us that you created it for, like you said, barbers, beauticians, those kind of professions that are natural counselors don't necessarily mean to be, but they are. So talk to me a little bit about, first of all, how you even got the idea to look at it from that perspective and be able to give them a tool, and then talk to those people who may be in some of those professions and tell me a little bit about how they can help.
Okay, so I think I got the idea because one of my girlfriends created a self-help deck of cards, and I like the idea because, again, I want to do something more. I was trying to get, try to be creative with it. So, and so I just started thinking like how much I talk to my beautician or my nail person. And then I've heard that in the past year or so, beauticians and barbers beauticians had to be certified in domestic violence because they see, they might see the bruises on the client's neck or that kind of thing. So I just wanted to help like just think of outside of the box of like different situations where people might encounter victims.
Yeah, pause and put a pin in that. I need y'all to hear what she said. Beauticians are now being certified in domestic violence because this is something that continuously happens where they're being put in situations where, again, they either see the bruises or they're hearing the stories on the regular basis because they're safe spaces. And we can fill that beauticians in with barbers, with what other professions did you say earlier? You had a list of them, girl.
Nail techs, paramedics.
Oh, yes.
Just all of them.
Yes.
I really need this.
So I really wanted to put a pin in that. I need y'all to understand that she continues on. They're certifying these people in this because there's a need. They see a need there.
Absolutely.
And Lisa has helped create this resource. So keep going. I'm sorry, girl. I had to put a pin in it and let them know.
You're totally fine. We definitely need it out there. And for the ones who find themselves, in this unlikely position, I think it just comes like naturally because in the service industry, we're natural helpers. You know what I mean? And so when getting your hair, done is therapeutic, and then vice versa, them doing it. So it's just natural that you just talk. You know what I mean? And then especially if you have these relationships over, because normally when you find a good beautician, they'll take you stick with them. You don't just bounce around.
Oh yeah, especially barbers, that too. Don't know about men swear by their barber. Their barber could be out of town and they just ain't gonna get a haircut.
That's what I'm saying. So you know what I mean? So we just, it's just so they become like family kind of thing. And you just talk. Not even, and because a lot of times when you being abused, you might not even start talking about being abused, but it just naturally come out. Or like they can sense something. Like I was told once I got out, people who knew me before and saw me after, a couple people told me they would see me and they knew it was something wrong because my eyes were dead. I didn't see it.
Of course not,
and
right?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm looking normal. But then they no, you have a glow now, or your eyes are bright, that kind of thing. So you see it once you look, you see.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I just want to be just that resource. There's so much, abuse around and so many toxic situations and just upheaval around the world. I just want to be a help.
And even as you say this, what dawned in my head and dropped from the ceiling is apply these thoughts when we think about domestic violence also to the other relationships in your life, because your friends can be mentally and emotionally abusive to you, business partners, all sorts of things. Really apply it to every aspect of your life so that you can make sure that you are being self-reflective enough to continue to grow. I am obsessed with like self-growth, right? But you can't grow until you understand what the hell is going on.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. You're right. That's how I started unpacking things. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to just have peace in my like romantic life. I need peace all the way around.
All the way around.
Every area. So if I got to get rid of some people to make that happen, so be it. Like I've gotten rid of a handful of people recently. I'm in a rough little space here, but it's for my betterment. So
Same. Yeah. And it's funny how we go through those things and I have to often remind myself, and it sounds like you could be reminded right now too, season, reason, lifetime. People are here sometimes for a season, a reason, or lifetime. And we don't know. God knows what their role is. We can bring them in our life and be like, oh, this is clearly a lifetime person.
Right.
Says you. Says you.
Exactly.
Now, I'm going to ask you a specific question. I'm going to dig in a second for those helpers, those service providers, right? But really quick before I dig in, tell them where they can get a deck for themselves.
On my website, www.lisarjenkins.com.
LisaRJenkins.com. And you guys, again, you're going to hear the ad. So now when you hear the ad, you could be like, That was that girl who did the interview with Kim on the show. Yes, that's the ad. So LisaRJenkins.com and go and buy the deck so that you can advocate in a helpful and proper way. Now, understanding that the question that I'm about to ask, a lot of them are receiving training and that sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to ask you this from the perspective of someone who has survived this, someone who was, you're a survivor, you were a victim at one point, you're now a survivor in the healing process. From someone from your position, what kind of things can they begin to say or begin to do to interact with these people and affect them in a positive way if they don't have a deck yet, or if they order their deck and their deck won't be here for 7 days, but they got 7 days of people that's going to be coming in and they know on Thursday so-and-so gonna come in and they're like, I don't even know how to interact with her. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
What kind of things from your perspective can they begin to do or say?
I've learned to just be present. Just let them know you're there for them. Because I like to use the example, okay, you know how like you might grow up with siblings and you can't stand your sibling, but somebody outside your house can't come talk about your sibling.
That you will fight them.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't want, you might be getting your ass kicked every night, but Susie May can't come talk about you. You better
never say nothing about him though.
Right. So it's kind of the same thing. So and victims, no one, and I was the same way. No one could make me leave till I was ready to leave. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating. It's upsetting. I understand. But so just be there for them. Like, you don't have to, you can
beat him over the head with it, fuss at him about it. He ain't.
Right. Because that's just going to continue them to, because it has dangerous as the situation may or may not be, that's their comfort zone.
Right.
So you trying to make them move is not going to it's going to do the verse.
It's going to do the opposite of what you're trying to do.
Right. It's going to do the opposite. And then it's going to continue, they're going to make them question themselves more.
And then you're not a safe space. They got one less safe space.
Absolutely. So just be a safe space. I love how you said that. And then let them know you're there if they ever want to talk, if they ever need support. You're there to help. If you don't know the information, you would get it for them. Just like kind of real simple. You know what I mean? Like if you happen to see a bruise or they tell you something, you don't have to be like, oh girl, what happened to you? Like they know you see it. They doing your hair, it's on your neck. They know.
They know you're going, and they hoping you don't say nothing.
Exactly. So just don't say anything. Just act how you normally act. Don't change up with them.
And that's so important that I want you to say that, and especially because for our community, the Black community, and that's a lot of my listeners, and that's a lot of who I gear my information towards, because hey, I'm Black. I don't know no other way to I can't give you no other perspective.
Can't get out of it. Yeah.
Right. But a lot of times in our community, we are so I'm gonna say it in a friendly way. We so passionate with what we want to say that we'll be like, you just gonna let this man, or vice versa, the dude at the barbershop. So you just gonna let this be. And I need y'all to understand and hear her clearly. That's going to push them away further.
It is.
So be delicate with how you interact.
It's going to stop them from looking at you as a safe space.
Yeah. Be very delicate with how you interact.
Yep. And then they stop coming to your shop, and now you worry thinking something happened to them, but they didn't just try to move on because now you done blew up their spot.
Yeah, and now they're not comfortable coming to you because I'm uncomfortable at home and I'm uncomfortable here because of what's going on at home. As if I need some more drama. I'm trying to get away from the drama at home.
Exactly.
So and we're saying this, y'all, not to beat y'all up. We know y'all care, but we want to be able to help people in the best way possible for us to actually help them. Exactly. I understand that you will definitely feel, and it's hard too. I'm even putting myself in a position where I've had friends in abusive situations, and it's painful to watch them in it. Yes. It's painful. You get to a point where you be like, why are you? How are you? But it's important for us to understand our role in this to remain a safe space and not a place of conflict.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm so grateful for us having this conversation.
I know. It's amazing.
Yes, this is one that definitely needed to be had. So before we tie it up, talk to me a little bit about anything that you kind of want to be known or understood about the domestic violence from either side that we haven't discussed today or that people just haven't gotten in their brains. You look like it's so much.
It is. And it's just like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I think it just starts with talking. It starts with like the upbringing, like for men and women, like the ones that abuse. It's like, did y'all parents not teach y'all how to play and share and take rejection? And it's like so much goes on into that. Like I just don't even know like what to do. I just know we got to stop. Like people should not be being killed because they decide they don't want to be with somebody anymore.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's my thing. If it was just argument here and there, you lead abuse, that's fine. But people are dying.
Yeah.
Because of this. And then kids are left without their parents.
Both parents then, because one is gone, and one is in jail.
Gone. Exactly. You know what I mean? So that's just continue the dysfunction.
Yeah.
Over generations, because you taking parents away because you mad that she don't want to share herself with you no more. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make logical sense, y'all. And this all goes back. It's so crazy how all of the shows that I've been doing are tying together. It all ties back again to that adverse childhood experience.
Absolutely.
And understanding what happened to you or even what may have happened to people, y'all, to allow them to act in certain ways. Or when we're coming from a place of advocacy, when we don't understand, why do you keep accepting that for yourself? We got to understand everybody's been through different things, and everything you've been through affects you differently.
It does. Absolutely. Because I learned the body keeps account. You know what I mean? So even if you don't, you might forget some stuff, your body at some point is going to regurgitate.
Your mind, your heart, and your soul always going to remember.
Right. Because they might not be in alignment. Like one might be off, and that kind of thing, but it's going to come out. And like you said, everybody doesn't respond the same to trauma and different experiences, but it's coming out in some kind of way.
Absolutely. I'm so happy we had this conversation. So you guys, make sure you visit lisarjenkins.com. You'll be able to get access to the deck. You'll also be able to get access to the app, and you'll also be able to learn more about her other brand, which is, well, kind of not other brand because Umbrella's the other one, but KRA Communications. Yes. Where she does intense and different unique branding and public relations for businesses. So LisaRJenkins.com. And can you tell them where they can find you on the social networks?
Facebook, KRA.com, and then on Instagram, KRA Communications, the number 1.
Yes. And we have tagged both of those on the Instagram page already. So if you didn't remember what she just said, you're like, what? Go to our Instagram page. We already put it up there. We tagged it. And I am looking forward to this. Can I just say on air, this won't be our last conversation, will it?
Oh, no. You stuck with me now, girl.
Yes! I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being on air, and I truly hope that this interview has helped some people from every situation. What I like is that we've addressed victims, survivors, possible abusers, coming to grips with who they are, advocates. We've really touched on every part of that, and I want to commend you for what you do because, again, you're not doing this stuff to sell it to make money. You're doing this stuff to make a difference.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you. We appreciate you. The community is going to continue to learn more. And y'all, the app has already been downloaded in 40 countries. So this is not new. Let's be clear. This is not fresh. We're just putting you on.
Right. Exactly.
We just putting you on.
Just sharing it with you.
Shared it with you. So thank you so much, Lisa. We're going to play a little bit more music and then I'm going to close out the show. And y'all, Thursday, just because this makes complete sense, we're going to be talking to Dr. Sherilyn Garrett, and we're going to be talking about how to deal with toxic people in your life. Because y'all, all of these episodes, including this one, have just been leading up to that. And as I was finishing up this interview with Lisa, I was like, oh no, I know what we're talking about on Thursday. This is what this is. So we're going to be talking on Thursday about toxic people and how to deal with them in your life. So make sure you're tuned in. If you missed any part of this interview, don't trip. You can go to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/SoulSeico. That's SOLSEICO. And you'll be able to listen to this episode in its full entirety, in addition to every episode of Gems and Jams thus far, where we're talking about all of these things we're talking about now: mental health, childhood, adverse experiences, Black business. We're talking about it all over there. So head to the Patreon, and y'all, we'll talk to you soon. This is Kim Brio. You're listening to Gems and Jams on New Soul Radio.
Want 24/7 access to past shows, exclusive content, and VIP on-air opportunities? Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Solsei. That's SOLSEICO. Solsei. Want more dope content? Check out Solsei's YouTube by searching Solsei on that Solsei Chicago.
Building a business can be hard, but increasing your brand awareness doesn't have to be. KRA Communications specializes in public relations to help brands gain awareness through innovative efforts. KRA also advocates for domestic violence prevention through their signature Slipout mobile app, downloaded in over 40 countries, and the Slipout Domestic Advocacy Deck, self-help books, and even workshops. Learn more about KRA's products and services at lisarjenkins.com. That's lisarjenkins.com.
Starting a business? Grab Kim Brio's free brand identity checklist to remove the chaos around DIY in your brand. Get it free at kimbrio.com/checklist. That's Kim Brio. BRIO.com/checklist.
This podcast contains excerpts from New Soul Radio shows. For the full listening experience with music, visit newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com.